आप उसको जैसे भी खींचो, तोड़ो, मरोड़ो उस ब्रांड को, उसको फ्लेक्सिबल करो, because their core is really strong.
The KR is basics. You need to have strong hold on that, and then start your agency if you want to start, right? At least you'll have everything concrete with you so that you can start with your own marketing agency.
There is no magic wand.
Absolutely.
कोई ट्रिक नहीं है, कोई मैजिक, कोई जादू की छड़ी नहीं है. आपका ब्रांड तो एक ही है ना. मतलब Sprite as a brand is not a different brand to me, different brand to you, different brand to a 16-year-old. Consumers don't mind paying more for a more premium experience. Indian business houses have understood that trend very well.
Correct. हमारे business model को set करने से पहले we find a gap in the market, right? And when we find a gap in the market, we try to place our product or our business in that particular gap.
Right.
So that is called business placement, right? Why do we need a proper business model even before starting working on our brand guidelines and anything?
Brand guidelines will only come into the existence if you are able to put your product in the right place and make sure that you have a buyer for it.
What do you think what today's brands are selling? Are they selling product or services? Well, मेरे लिए तो नहीं है, आप बताना आपको क्या लगता है. But for me, today's brands are selling more of culture, belief, system, identity, and एक जो सबसे important चीज़ है that is emotional connect. And there are a lot of factors contributing to this transformation. But एक जो सबसे important चीज़ है वो है हमारी generation, the today's generation, Gen Z and अब तो Gen Alpha भी आ चुके हैं. They are well informed, well educated and well connected with the entire ecosystem, with the entire world कि उन लोगों को पता है कि उनको क्या चाहिए. एंड इन्हीं सब चीज़ों को हमने डिस्कस किया है हमारे आज के पॉडकास्ट में. सो वेलकम टू येट अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ ब्रांडिंग ब्लूप्रिंट विद सुधांशु. माय नेम इज सुधांशु मलिक. आई एम योर होस्ट एंड BBWS का होस्ट. एंड आज हमारे साथ है अभिषेक गुप्ता. ही इज जॉइंट मैनेजिंग डायरेक्टर ऑफ BEI Confluence. इनके साथ पॉडकास्ट शूट करने के मेरे दो सबसे बड़े रीजंस है. वन इज ऑब्वियसली ही इज फाउंडर ऑफ अ मार्केटिंग एजेंसी, बट सेकंड इज he is third generation marketer. That means grandfather, father and Abhishek. So हमें एक legacy और modern marketing का perspective मिलने वाला है. So without wasting much of your time, let's start this podcast. Hi Abhishek, welcome to the podcast.
Hi Sudhanshu.
I know it's been very busy for you. Mondays are always busy, but thank you for taking out time for the shoot.
My pleasure, Sudhanshu. Have been watching your content, and it's always fun to see the work, and especially when it's content that is somewhere relatable to what I do for a living. So it's always more fun to watch. So thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you so much. So we'll start with your introduction. I'll tell you why I want to start with your introduction is you're third generation marketer, grandfather, father, and now you. So legacy as well as modern marketing, you have that essence in you. So let's start with your introduction.
Thank you. My name is Abhishek Gupta. I have been in this business of communication, marketing and advertising for the last 18 to 19 years.
Wow.
And I do represent the third generation of marketers in my family. My grandfather used to be a marketing and an advertising person back in the 1960s and maybe the 50s. I have seen very less of him, but I have known about him through more photographs and very childhood memories. My father, Mr. Tapas Gupta, is an active marketer and an advertising professional, and he has been in this industry he's in fact completed his 50th working year. Just now, and he's one of the rare individuals who have worked continuously for 50 years, and that's a remarkable achievement. And my name is Abhishek. I head an organization called BEI Confluence. I'm the joint managing director. BEI Confluence was founded by my father back in close to 99, 2000. We've been in the business of advertising and marketing for close to 26 to 27 years now. And it is a full service network agency with about 85 to 90 working professionals.
Amazing.
We are based out of Delhi,
Okay.
but we have brands out of Bangalore, Hyderabad, Lucknow, Surat, Ahmedabad, etc. Primarily a format where there are a multitude of different kinds of segments of brands, whether it's the consumer durable brands, whether it's FMCG,
Okay.
whether it's large companies like Jindal and Total Energies.
Wow.
So it's a combination of different kinds of segments, but a lot of specialization goes in FMCG and FMCD
Okay.
as an industry. And yeah, that's a quick introduction of me.
So how do you see the cultural shift from last, I would say, from 20 years to now?
I think from 20 years to now, everything has changed, right?
Right.
I mean, right from whatever, I always am a firm believer that India is defined by certain kinds of events or cultural events, like whether it's Bollywood or whether it's cricket,
Right.
right? That defines the era of India in a lot of ways.
Correct.
And advertising is generally a reflection of that culture that that India is going through at that point in time. So, I mean, I'll ask you, you know the kind of changes that Bollywood has gone through
Absolutely.
in the last 20 years.
Yeah.
The kind of films that we see, the kind of heroes that we see, the kind of storylines that we see are very, very different from what at least I have been used to seeing when I was growing up, maybe in the 90s and early 2000s.
Correct.
So has cricket changed. It has changed in a very, very dynamic way. The cricket has become far more aggressive, far more faster. Rules have changed. So if all these larger factors have changed, then it's very, very clear that even advertising and marketing as a culture will evolve.
Correct.
90s was a time where there was a very different kind of advertising because India was at an all-time economic boom.
Absolutely.
And you'll remember the Ye Dil Mange More, and India was always talking about large aspirations. To today is a very, very different ecosystem.
Correct.
And small brands, you've not even heard about them, are coming in and making a dent in the Unilevers of the world. And everybody is very, very looking at discovery based buying. They don't anymore only depend on the large brands to feed them. So therefore advertising marketing has completely changed.
Correct.
And the COVID as a time period and the whole digital tech revolution, so यहाँ से एक नया evolution की journey start हो रही है as far as I am concerned.
Correct, correct. And if I talk about like last 20 years, जो पहले ब्रांड्स जो बड़े ब्रांड्स हैं, पहले के ब्रांड्स जो थे वर्सेस जो आज के नए ब्रांड्स हैं, वी कैन टॉक अबाउट कोका कोला, वी कैन टॉक अबाउट पेप्सी वर्सेस आज स्विगी जोमेटो. जैसे कल्चरल शिफ्ट इज ऑल अबाउट दे आर ब्रिंगिंग न्यू कल्चर, दे आर ब्रिंगिंग न्यू बिलीफ, एक सिस्टम डेवलप करे, एक आइडेंटिटी बिल्ड कर रहे हैं. ये नए ब्रांड्स ने किस तरीके से अडेप्ट किया है? एंड इसका पर्सपेक्टिव मैं देना चाहता हूँ कंज्यूमर्स के हिसाब से, जो आज की जनरेशन है उसके हिसाब से.
Right. I will talk about this with an example.
Right.
I have a 13-year-old boy. The kind of content, and he's the Gen Alpha.
Yeah.
Right. The kind of content that he sees and the kind of ads that he likes and the kind of ads that he doesn't like is very, very different from what a 13-year-old would consume, let's say 10 years back.
Right.
Right. How these consumers have evolved is primarily because the entire cultural shift has happened when it comes to India today. There has been a tech revolution, which I think has completely, changed the way thinking is done. Number one. Number two, I think brands have also understood that there are so many more opportunities today and so many more windows today versus the traditional channels, that creating a brand and then making its presence felt is a far simpler job,
Right.
given today's ecosystem versus, let's say, a few years back. A few years back, or let's say about a decade back, a brand would struggle to have that kind of capital to make their presence felt.
Correct.
channels limited थे, buying behavior was very very restricted, very regimented, कि मैं offline दुकानों से लूंगा, general trade से लूंगा, modern trade अब तभी भी minuscule contribution था, अभी भी कम contribution है. But अब आज देख लो कितने सारे channels खुल गए हैं. There is direct marketing, Google marketing, there is a whole D2C marketing. So today brands have understood that if they are a nimble brand and if they have a great product and a great story,
Correct.
there is an audience.
Right.
And interestingly, this audience purchasing capacity has also increased drastically.
Right.
Again, I'll quote with an example.
That is the shift from intent-based buying to discovery-based buying.
Kids today, and let's talk about our fraternity itself.
Right.
जो entry point salary है for a guy who comes in to seek a job opportunity is a ridiculous proposition.
Absolutely.
Compared to 15-20 years back,
What we used
where
to have.
I was more grateful that I am part of this system
Correct.
rather than negotiating a salary at that point in time. So I mean, jokes aside, I think the purchasing capacity is increased because the nation has become richer. We are a much more stable country. We are a much more globally aligned country. So which simply makes the consumer very much more empowered.
Right.
And if he's empowered, he has so many opportunities, so many options to purchase from. And therefore, brands need to be extra nimble on their feet.
Right.
That's how I see the shift happening.
Right. And I feel tech is playing a major role. Initially we used to have like campaigns for everyone. Right. जब हमारे टीवी पे campaigns आते थे, रेडियो के campaigns थे, those are for everyone.
Right.
Now because of involvement of technology, we have trackability. We can track campaigns, and that's the reason why the campaigns today in today's generation or in today's world, these are specifically for a set of audience. Right. And उससे personalize हो रहे हैं हमारे campaigns, personalize हो रही है हमारी ads, and especially brands भी personalize हो रहे हैं.
Correct.
Right.
I mean, it's great time to be a marketer.
Right.
It's absolutely the best time to be a marketer. I have spent my initial years on very, very large brands like Coca-Cola and Nestle. And I'm very, very thankful to these brands because they have really taught me what I know today. And I am just drawing a comparison that at a point in time when Coca-Cola advertising was primarily dominated by visibility on television.
Correct.
And visibility on ground, right? These were the two large ways in which the brand would be visible. But look at how micro-fragmented that brand can become today. It can reach out to a 16-year-old with a very specific set of communication versus to a 20-year-old with a very specific set of communication, and to me for a different occasion altogether.
Absolutely.
Maybe they want me to stock up for the party that's coming in because they know that Abhishek at his time and age is not a very frequent drinker of, let's say, carbonated soft drinks.
Correct.
Because he's maybe moved on to more healthier beverages. But the brand will target me for very specific consumption occasions.
Exactly.
Versus a 16-year-old versus a 20-year-old. There are very, very specific targeting and very, very specific storytelling.
Correct.
And I think that's what makes it very, very exciting in today's time. आपको क्रिएटिव में एक नैरेटिव से आप कॉन्वर्सेशन को क्लोज नहीं कर सकते.
नहीं होगा.
बिल्कुल. आपको बहुत सारी कहानियां बतानी पड़ेंगी. That's how the beauty is. I think it's a great time.
Absolutely. So you have worked outside BEI Confluence for a good number of years. How do you see the difference between working between other agencies versus your agency?
Actually, I'll answer the question by first defining why I did work outside BEI Confluence. I spent the first 10 to 12 years of my career outside the agency that I represent family-wise for a very specific reason, Sudhanshu. I felt that it was important to start ground up. If I don't start from the base, climb one stair at a time, it suddenly becomes a bit difficult to understand things from a very management level. So therefore, I felt that working in a networked agency system will give me exposure to A, the ground rules, the basics. B, I will be able to work on obviously the kind of brands that are globally networked and globally aligned. And I would also get an opportunity to work with some real stalwarts of the industry. And thankfully, I did manage all the three that I just said. So I started with working with an agency called Euro RCG, which is now called Havas IT. For a period of time. Then I moved to Publicis, and I was heading the Nestle business.
Okay.
And Publicis was a good stint of about 5 years. And after that, I moved to Ogilvy.
Okay.
Was heading the Coca-Cola portfolio. Huge learnings, Sudhanshu. It really set my basics correct. Working with brands like Nestle's and the Coca-Colas of the world made me understand what is a brand.
Correct.
बिल्कुल फंडामेंटल लेवल पे. उसके बाद आप उसको जैसे भी खींचो, तोड़ो, मरोड़ो उस ब्रांड को, उसको फ्लेक्सिबल करो. हाउ द कोर ऑफ द ब्रांड इज स्टिल इंटैक्ट. And that is the reason why these brands continue to evolve over a period of time.
Correct.
Because their core is really, really strong. When I worked with these networked agencies, like I mentioned, I had a very, very selfish point of view. I wanted to work with the stalwarts of the agency industry, like the Piyush Pandeys of the Piyush Pandey and Ashish Khazanchi and these guys. And I managed to work with them and managed to understand what makes these people great.
Correct.
And what is it that they really bring to the table from a very, very close corner. Then when I moved to my own agency, and it's been about 9 to 10 years now in BEI Confluence, heading the agency, I find there is a lot of similarities. We are still good old brand people, trying to figure out how a brand can be created, and then how the brand can evolve into different platforms, different target audiences, different consumption occasions, as the culture evolves.
Okay, so BEI Confluence was already in existence when you were working?
BEI Confluence was very much in existence. I was not working there in the initial 10 years, 12 years, because that was a deliberate decision to try and learn the tricks of the trade from outside and move from outside to inside rather than only being rooted there, because it gives me one perspective, right? The moment I work with different network agencies on large brands, it gives me multiple larger perspectives to work with, and all those perspectives I can deploy when I come to my own agency, and that has been the one of the I think reasons for success or whatever we can call it.
Correct. Very important for every single entrepreneur or even marketers, I would say, go work with agencies.
Yeah.
Have a strong hold on your basics, the KRS basics. You need to have strong hold on that, and then start your agency if you want to start, right? At least you'll have everything concrete with you so that you can start with your own marketing agency.
I think golden point.
Yeah.
Golden point. There is no magic wand.
Absolutely.
कोई ट्रिक नहीं है, कोई मैजिक, कोई जादू की छड़ी नहीं है. You have to do your basics. It might sound like the biggest cliche, but trust me on this, and I say this with so much of conviction, that you just got to keep doing the basics over and over and over and over again and do it well.
Correct.
The more you do the basics well, you know that you're doing one part of it correct.
You cannot climb the ladder in one go.
You can't. And then once your basics are correct, you know that the fundamentals are right, then you start adding the icing to the cake. You start putting the cherries on it. You start cutting communication in different ways. But आपका brand तो एक ही है ना. मतलब Sprite as a brand is not a different brand to me, different brand to you, different brand to a 16-year-old या different brand to a Gen Z. ऐसा तो नहीं है ना. एक 45-year-old के लिए जो brand का meaning है Sprite का, वही मीनिंग है टू अ 16-year-old.
करेक्ट.
सो कहीं ना कहीं पे तो उन्होंने फंडामेंटल को बहुत सही तरीके से बनाया है.
करेक्ट.
देन दे हैव बीन एबल टू मैजिकली काइंड ऑफ मैन्यूवर दैट ब्रांड अक्रॉस डिफरेंट टारगेट ऑडियंसेस, अक्रॉस डिफरेंट कल्चरल कॉन्टेक्स्ट्स. जैसे जैसे टाइम चेंज होता गया वैसे वैसे ब्रांड को उन्होंने इवॉल्व करा है.
करेक्ट.
सो इन अ नटशेल it was a great experience to work with outside agencies, large, especially the large networked agencies. I will give my biggest gratitude to two agencies that have shaped my career. Publicis due to Nestle and Ogilvy due to Coca-Cola.
Okay.
and those learnings I still value my hard disk more than any possession in the world.
Absolutely. Okay, so I have a question. Since you have worked with a lot of big brands,
Right.
big brands की अपनी set guidelines होती हैं, which we call brand guidelines, right? उनकी लीगल्स भी इन्वॉल्व होते हैं, सब कुछ बीच में प्री प्लेस्ड होता है. उसके अराउंड कंटेंट स्ट्रेटेजिस्ट को, उसके अराउंड अकाउंट मैनेजर्स को या क्लस्टर हेड्स को मनूवर कैसे करते हैं, वो लोग उस चीज को हैंडल कैसे करते हैं?
A great question. And this question keeps coming up time and again, especially when there is a large global brand that comes to the roster, and it comes with 2 terabytes of brand guidelines.
Correct.
Okay, it comes with manuals and it comes with social media formats. It comes with brochure guidelines, POS guidelines, film guidelines, so on and so forth. So the first part is slightly intimidating. To any, especially the young guys who are going to front face on a day-to-day basis these kind of brands, but then slowly they start understanding the guidelines. My answer to your question, Sudhanshu, would be that there is a reason that these guidelines exist. The reason that these guidelines exist is to create a cohesive brand experience. No matter which country, no matter which consumer, or no matter what platform your brand is being exposed to,
Correct.
you somewhere still retain the core essence of the brand. I'm a huge fan of Coke, not because I worked on it, but I'm not much of a Coca-Cola drinker, but I am a big fan of the brand.
From a marketer's
point of view, and I think it's one of the greatest creations ever. Even if I have somebody who's I wake up somebody in the middle of the night and show him a collateral of Coca-Cola from a distance, and I take off the logo, he'll still say it's Coca-Cola.
Absolutely, that's
the
point.
power of Coca-Cola.
Correct.
आप उसको सोशल मीडिया में 50,000 क्लटर के बीच में भी वो लाल कलर और वो swoosh के साथ दिखा दो लोगों को हटा के, and the tonality in which the brand speaks, they'll still tell you it's Coca-Cola.
Correct.
And that's the greatness of a brand. Now, should that guidelines and should those restrictions become a problem or restrictive? My answer is no. And I think that's when the real the intelligence or the experience of the marketeers come into the picture. That how do I take those guidelines and how do I make it a little bit more fluidic? जो शायद 10 साल पहले applicable था as a guideline might not be applicable to its truest form today.
Absolutely.
But आप उसको हल्का सा मॉडिफाई तो कर सकते हो. और देखो मार्केटियर वहां पे जो बैठे हुए अटलांटा वगैरह में वो बड़े तेज लोग हैं. They understand. They have also made the brand guidelines slightly fluidic in a manner that it keeps evolving.
क्योंकि मार्केट भी इवॉल्व हो रही है तो आपको उसके अकॉर्डिंग इवॉल्व होना पड़ेगा.
आप बर्गर किंग को देखिए. It's a great brand again from a brand guideline point of view.
Correct.
It's absolutely unique when it comes to the brand language. On social media, there are अब तो हर गली नुक्कड़ में there is a burger joint.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
Everybody has burgers. But Burger King on social media stands out because of the kind of fluidic nature, of the kind of look and feel that they have. उनके कुछ colors हैं, उनका कुछ graffiti के styles है. It's a great brand again. So to answer the question in a long, to cut the long story short, it's a very simple thing. The guidelines exist for a reason. All we have to do is to make sure that the guidelines are maneuvered intelligently,
right,
so that it gives you the return on the investment.
Correct.
That's it.
So let's take those brand guidelines and MediaTek to a ground level. So आज के brands जो upcoming brands हैं या नए brands जो launch हो चुके हैं market में, they generally don't pay attention to brand guidelines. Performance marketing शुरू करो and immediately हमारे पास result आ जाएगा. But it doesn't work like that, right? उनके लिए brand guidelines और initial media kits की क्या importance है? And why they should work around it?
Good question. I keep meeting a lot of new entrepreneurs who build brands, and they come and say that let's get into a relationship and you help me develop campaigns and stuff like that. I think the first, and this is not a very generic statement, ऐसा नहीं है कि सभी ऐसे बोलते हैं, but a large part of the young new entrepreneurs who are creating brands, I think somewhere the perspective first is let's get the business going,
Right.
which is absolutely fair, and I can't deny that. But somewhere the priorities are, let's drive more performance campaigns, let's talk about campaigns more, rather than trying to have more conversations on brand.
Okay.
This is not a topic that I'll spend too much of time on, because a lot of people have, I'm sure, would have spoken about it. But to my mind, I'll only quote one example. If you remember, at a time, there was beer brands like Kingfisher, Hayward's, Kalyani Black Label, Foster's, Carlsberg, Heineken. And then came a brand called Bira.
Absolutely.
It came out of nowhere. It came with this really quirky monkey and a great tasting beer, which was almost citrusy flavored. Me and my wife both could have that beer without one of them cringing, saying कि ये कैसा taste है. And it took the market by storm.
Absolutely.
It changed the beer category as we know today. The monoliths no longer, feel that kind of monopoly.
Correct.
Everyone is trying to youthify beer brands. Everyone's trying to experiment with beer flavors. What did Bira do right? They came out with a damn good differentiated product.
Perfect. Yeah.
एकदम sweet spot hit करा. Women drinkers, why would they not be tasting beer? Yeah, they made that beer which was palatable to everyone.
Exactly.
Number 2, they did good advertising. Number 3, to my mind, they created a beautiful brand universe.
Exactly.
That monkey, the white packaging, the quirk, the name Bira, the whole fun around it, the
they created
flavors.
a community around it.
They suddenly created a whole community. Community is a good point.
Yeah.
And Sudhanshu, brand guideline वही है, मतलब जब आपका एक brand is talking to you in a very beautiful, unique manner, that is a brand guideline, no?
Right.
So they created a fantastic product. To answer your question, I think marketers, whether they are the new generation or the generation that is going to come, they will, and I'm sure they understand that brand is equally important.
Right.
आप दोनों करो, but brand को priority list से number 3 पे मत डालो. वो long term में काम नहीं करेगा. Because आपके performance campaigns, sales campaigns, everything will be great. And I'm a businessman myself, so I always estimate that business is most bigger priority.
Money in bank तो
numbers
right.
define everything that we do, which is totally fair.
Right.
But this part of it, which is the intangible part, which is the brand experience, is linked to my performance.
Right.
It's totally linked.
Right.
Forest Essentials सुनते ही एक दिमाग में एक थॉट और एक फ्रेग्रेंस आता है ना,
Exactly.
वो ब्रांड का पावर है. उसके बाद जब आप परफॉर्मेंस चलाओगे तो आपके लिए वो कन्वर्जन्स आसान होंगे, वर्सेस फर्स्ट ट्राइंग टू ओनली पुट फॉरेस्ट एसेंशियल्स एंड नॉट डिफाइनिंग व्हाट इज फॉरेस्ट एसेंशियल्स. सो
सोल स्टोर भी सेम है.
Soul store भी same है, and there are some really nice brands which are coming up, which are paying equal importance to brand as well as the end of the funnel.
Correct.
So it's very important.
So branding is, considering it for a longer run and shorter run में, yes, money in bank चाहिए तो आप campaigns और बाकी अपनी
And no one has said that they can't coexist, by the way.
Exactly.
No one has said that it cannot coexist.
Exactly.
There is a big conversation कि brand पहले या performance पहले, ऐसा कुछ नहीं है, दोनों linked है.
दोनों linked है. Simultaneously आप चला सकते हो दोनों चीजों को.
बिल्कुल, because they coexist, no?
Exactly.
What is that performance creative that is going to give you that kind of return on the investment? That is the brand power, no? आपके product की कोई कहानी है या आपके brand का कोई aura है. Those are going to lead to your conversions. That's my answer.
And you can parallelly start keeping that essence of brand guidelines in your performance campaigns.
बिल्कुल.
Parallelly आ सकता है वहाँ पे.
बिल्कुल. Performance campaigns में भी तो creative ही जाता है ना, ultimately.
उसमें you can keep the essence of brand guidelines.
बिल्कुल. Brand guidelines जरूरी है.
Maybe initially नहीं होगा, second, third, fourth campaign के बाद आना शुरू हो जाएगा. But you can keep that essence.
I think when somebody is forming a brand, I have always been in the advertising business, so I have never created a product myself, but I've marketed thousands of products.
Yeah.
I think whenever I speak to a lot of the young generation, I don't think they underestimate the power of branding. I don't think so.
I guess
I just
now
think that
today's
they
generation,
deprioritize a
yeah,
bit.
I guess today's generation is understanding the power of brand guidelines.
बहुत important
They
है.
understand the power of branding. It's just that वो shift हो जाता है second, third और fourth position पे due to initial sales or marketing hustles. Initial. But धीरे धीरे they can start paying attention to it, and then you'll see you'll start seeing results of it.
मैं तो सिंपल कह रहा हूँ कि आप एक ब्रांड को सिर्फ इंस्टाग्राम से पुश कर रहे हो.
Absolutely.
आप इंस्टाग्राम में क्लटर देखिए. I mean, it doesn't even compare to the clutter that we talk about on newspapers or print or whatever.
Correct.
It is incredible clutter. They say that in the first 3 seconds, if you're not able to stop that person from scrolling, your ad is gone.
Absolutely.
So what do you do in that first 3 to 4 seconds? कुछ तो something has to jump out, and that is the brand story, या the product story, या a pricing story. Something has to come out.
Correct.
So therefore, underestimating a brand power of a brand is not a conversation.
Correct.
And you're right. Marketers today understand it, and I'm sure that they're doing it, and they should be doing it.
Correct. When we talk about big brands, last 30 years में they have evolved a lot, right? So 30 years पहले जो हमारी ऑडियंस थी वो अब चेंज हो गई है. हमारी ऑडियंस जो करंट जनरेशन है, करंट ऑडियंस है, वो बिल्कुल डिफरेंट है. Now when we talk about evolution of these brands, so evolution में there are multiple segments I am taking. One is pricing, post sales experience, and then it comes about emotional connect. So ये evolution किस तरीके से adapt कर रहे हैं?
Right. When we used to work on Coke, they used to kind of have some people back in Atlanta who were like crystal ball gazers.
Right.
We used to find certain reports that used to come in which would talk about what are the future trends that are going to define the country and the economy and the culture in the next 10 years.
Okay.
They would define how the pop culture would evolve or could evolve potentially. What are the large things that could happen? That's why I'm saying कोई crystal ball gazer था. And basis those larger shifts, how could the brand also shift?
Okay.
Right? And now that's why I said in the beginning, big fan of Coke, because they had the vision to see future forward. And I'm sure there are many other large brands also doing the same thing. To answer your question, Sudhanshu, brands need to evolve, because आपने अगर बोला कि 30 years, आप सोचो 30 years में कितनी बार consumers बदल गए होंगे. जो key cohort से they grow up, no, and they move to something else, then somebody else comes. So the goalpost keeps changing. The cultural narrative changes, everything changes. So therefore the brands need to definitely be cognizant of the fact that they have to evolve.
Correct.
How do they evolve? They somewhere retain their core and then they evolve as per the cultural shifts.
Correct.
Example, I like talking with examples. It makes it easier for everybody to understand. Big fan of Johnny Walker, the brand, because great advertising. You've grown up on Keep Walking and the whole aura of Johnny Walker. I see a very different Johnny Walker today. The advertising is glitzy. It's in a nightclub. It's Priyanka walking through Times Square, and there is a song by some musician who's very current. And it's a very, very different feel. What does that mean? Or let's say Jack Daniels.
Absolutely.
The Jack Daniels ad keeps following me on Spotify because of whatever remarketing or whatever is going on. I would have interacted with the ad a couple of times. And Jack Daniels, like the way I knew it, and the Jack Daniels today, the advertising is polar opposite.
Correct.
I knew Jack Daniels as a bourbon brand, more for the West, the Texan and all that kind of a era. To today, Jack Daniels talks about pubs and nightclubs. So clearly the shift is to target the Gen Z.
Correct.
There is no other way to speak about it, and that's the right thing to do. The Gen Z, if Johnny Walker and Jack Daniels is not relevant to the Gen Z will immediately cluster it by saying ये तो मेरे दादाजी के ज़माने का ब्रांड है, ये मेरे पिताजी के ज़माने का ब्रांड है, मेरे लिए तो नया ब्रांड कोई X है या Y है. उसके पास पैसा है, उसके पास experimentative nature है. So why will they go to Jack Daniels unless Jack Daniels reinvents themselves for this Gen Z?
Correct.
So the question in a nutshell, the answer in a nutshell is that they have to evolve, and that's how they will be relevant to the Gen Z.
Correct. And what's in it for homegrown brands? क्योंकि homegrown brands के लिए इसमें बहुत सारे homegrown brands हैं जो बहुत पुराने नहीं हैं.
Right.
They recently started like 10 years back, 15 years back only. And they are now adapting this cultural shift. They started within this cultural shift only. They are now adapting to the cultural shift जहाँ पे generation Gen Z आ चुके हैं. अब तो Gen Alpha भी है हमारे पास. So उसके according वो किस तरीके से mold कर रहे हैं अपने marketing strategies को?
At BEI Confluence, there is a large number of Indian homegrown brands,
Right.
because these are large companies, publicly listed companies, and but they're at the end of the day very founder driven. The company works to the culture of the founder.
Right.
Whether it's Jindal or whether it's Mrs. Bector's, which is Cremica in English oven, or whether it's Radico Khaitan's, one of our large businesses. There is a certain kind of ethos which that company has from inception, and in the last 10 to 15 years, they have also evolved.
Correct.
And we have seen these Indian homegrown businesses evolve. Now, to get into a specific conversation, that how do they evolve? I think the first trend that I can spot is that all of these Indian homegrown businesses have moved the needle towards premiumization.
Okay.
Because kahin na kahin pe the inherent thought is that I am an Indian brand. I need to come across as a more premium offering, both in terms of product, pricing, and also India is moving towards a more premiumization in every category possible.
Absolutely.
Whether it's breads, aap dekh lo, we have been handling English oven for a long time. Earlier than that, we used to handle a brand called Harvest Gold. When I had started working on Harvest Gold, which is around 2015 or so, 16, there was no advertising that used to happen for bread. It used to sell like a commodity.
Right.
क्या होता था? व्हाइट ब्रेड होता था, ब्राउन ब्रेड होता था, फ्रूट ब्रेड होता था, और ऐसे ही 2-3 प्रोडक्ट्स. ज्यादा से ज्यादा बिजनेस यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम व्हाइट एंड ब्राउन.
Absolutely.
Now there is multigrain, there is chia seeds, there is flax seeds, there is atta, there is zero maida, there is no palm oil, there is a totally clean product, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
So why is that happening? And despite of all that, there are a lot of people who say, I don't eat bread.
Correct.
Right? Because we keep doing these syndicated researches and a lot of inputs come from that. So primarily consumers don't mind paying more for a more premium experience. Indian business houses have understood that trend very, very well.
Correct. So हमने अभी brand guidelines की बात करी, but उससे पहले आता है a proper business model. Why do we need a proper business model? So I'll give you a context कि why I'm asking this question. हमारे business model को set करने से पहले we find a gap in the market, right? And when we find a gap in the market, we try to place our product or our business in that particular gap.
Right.
So that is called business placement, right? Why do we need a proper business model even before starting working on our brand guidelines and anything?
Again, brand guidelines will only come into the existence if you are able to put your product in the right place and make sure that you have a buyer for it.
Right.
And there has to be a science why a buyer will be interested in your product when there is the same product that is सब वही बेच रहे हैं. मतलब brand guidelines तो बहुत दूर की बात है, right? I mean this is a very existential question, and this is a good question because a lot of marketeers, especially very young ones, come with an idea, get really excited with it, place the product quickly, without really thinking through that does it have that kind of power to sustain clutter, pressure, channel, so on and so forth.
Or is it really required?
What is really required?
I mean the placement of that particular business, is it really required there to
Correct.
start?
Is it fitting into the right place in the first place?
Right.
Correct. Sudhanshu, this is a great question. I think brand guideline, brand narrative, all of these questions come much later.
Right.
This is a very fundamental level question. Imagine somebody spends time working on a product, kind of developing it, sharpening it, working on it day in and day night, and then make a classic mistake
Correct.
of placing it in a place where उस टाइम के लिए तो चल जाता है मगर the moment there is two other brands who put in two products higher or lower they come into a problem.
Correct. Sandwich बन जाएगा.
Sandwich बन जाता है. So therefore I think the USP, the product itself, I think at a very ground level has to have something in it.
Correct.
If there is nothing in it, then there has to be a brilliant sales strategy or a brilliant sales spiel or a narrative. कुछ तो X factor रहे. अगर नहीं रहेगा तो it will maybe temporarily work, but over a period of time it snaps.
Correct.
So where am I putting the product? What is the kind of channel that I'm placing it? Is it a sustainable strategy? Is my pricing correct for today and can I stretch it till tomorrow?
Correct.
These are brilliant questions to have, sit down and then talk about the rest of the elements like guidelines and all that. So
Correct.
that's the first
Right.
thing. That it's important for the brand and the marketer to identify its sweet spot. I think there is a huge silver lining to this. Today, when there is more clutter and all that is fine, but there are also more opportunities. It's a very dynamic ecosystem. आप सिर्फ एक प्लेटफॉर्म को पकड़ के आप आपके बिजनेस मॉडल को खड़ा कर सकते हो. That is the way marketing is happening in today's time and age.
Correct.
I mean, a very obvious answer to this would be how this Instagram ecosystem has evolved.
Correct.
And how Instagram, from an entertainment to food to pictures to personal vlogging and blogging, has now got brands in it, and now it's also a marketplace, and now you can finally make your purchase and close the loop.
Correct.
Which means a person does not have to leave the Instagram ecosystem. वो आया, उसने अपनी फैमिली वगैरह सब देखा, फूड वूड सब मस्ती करी. He sees content from influencers or
Correct.
the brand reaches out, he makes reviews, he makes choices, goes on to the shop, makes a purchase, closes out the deal.
Correct.
So it's a very exciting time to be a marketer because while there is going to be competition and clutter, but there are also more opportunities.
Correct. Instagram, so Instagram के साथ में एक, I mean, in today's world, even there are lot of brands in the market जो Instagram पे काम कर रहे हैं, but I would say 95-96% of the brands are not able to crack the code. Instagram का, right? Especially D2C brands. I'm not talking about service-based industry. Especially D2C brands जो Instagram का कोड अभी तक क्रैक नहीं कर पा रहे, उनके लिए क्या हमारे पास टेक अवे हो सकता है?
देखो, I don't think anybody has the answer to cracking the code except a few. I mean, I'll be lying to say if I have the.
हम बहुत ऊपर से लेंगे इसको.
No, I understand, but I mean, मतलब देखो सवाल बहुत solid है because everyone will have their own theories in how to crack the Instagram code, right? I'm sure that you have interviewed and spoken to more digital marketers who will give you more technical specifications and more technical hacks how I can crack the code of Instagram. All I can say is that it's important, Sudhanshu, to be nimble.
Absolutely.
And experimentative and not be rigid and not die in analysis paralysis. Then you certainly can't crack the code.
And being consistent is also important.
It is. Matlab, I'll not take names. There are brands who are large, huge businesses. They just can't crack the code of Instagram because they overthink it.
Correct.
And who are you competing with? You're competing with young guys or girls who are sitting down in small enclosed rooms on a laptop and cracking Instagram codes. They are creating content before you can blink your eyes. right? They're getting influencers before
you think of a content piece and you'll see
before you take like a coffee break, there will be more content which will be there. उस ecosystem में आप बैठ के analysis paralysis नहीं कर सकते. Try. Sometimes it will work, sometimes it will not work, but as a platform, it's okay if some things have not worked, because it also gives you learnings why it has not worked, and then you can apply it to making something work.
Correct.
So that is the beauty of it. And I think if any digital marketer says that I have cracked the code of Instagram the first time, he's not saying it correctly. Because the nature of the platform is such.
Right.
वो आपको डायनामिक है, वो आपको बता देगा कि ये चल रहा है, ये नहीं चल रहा है, कहाँ से हो रहा है, क्या नहीं करेक्ट करा आपने. बट माई आंसर इन अ वेरी सिंपल वे इज दैट be really nimble and take fast decisions.
Right.
If you take fast decisions, you are reaching out to this Gen Z audience and the Gen Alpha audience. Gen Alpha audience is even more unforgiving. They are unforgiving. वो आपको पसंद नहीं आया एक सेकंड and they know hacks how to block advertising.
Correct.
And they're like 12-13-year-old kids who know how to block advertising. उनको नहीं मतलब है, उनको देखना ही नहीं है, और अच्छा लगा तो they are sold forever.
Correct.
At least till the time they grow up to a certain age, and then their fascination, moves to something else. But yeah, I mean that's the way I would see it. Be really agile and take some risks.
Correct.
Be a little experimentative. Jo thought process, even for a classic marketer like me, what I've been born and brought up on, it might not be always the right thing to do.
So be consistent, do trial and errors. You'll get an idea what is working, what is not working.
And be nimble.
Right.
वो एक चीज पे एक महीना लगेगा तो नहीं होने वाला है, कभी भी वो नहीं होने वाला. And then everybody will be scratching their heads saying that, yeah, look, my competition brand is such a young brand, it's growing so fast, why am I not taking? And audience is not so judgmental today कि ये अच्छा नहीं है, वो अच्छा है, मतलब ठीक है, they'll forgive you the next time you come. I don't think so.
They have time enough to think.
No, I mean they want to be engaged more and more.
Correct.
So you keep engaging them. There's some things which will like, which they like, thoda, something they like a lot. So it gives you that bandwidth to keep course correcting and making your brand come alive in different ways.
Correct.
That's my only two piece of advice to this.
Right. ठीक है. So let's talk about BEI Confluence, the culture that is already there, and how you're building culture.
So we are in about our 26th year of existence.
Amazing.
And the initial years, obviously my father, Mr. Tapas Gupta, he took charge of the operations, and he had a set team which was working with him for the longest period of time.
Okay.
And he had with him a few of his very trusted lieutenants who moved along with him from McCann. This is very, very early. I mean, I was still in school or whatever. So, and then the initial few years were obviously building the business. There were some really large businesses. I was obviously not there, but I've heard about it and stories and archives and stuff like that. Brands like Sahara was one of the largest businesses.
Okay.
And this was I think, but pardon my timeline on this because it's only hearsay. I think in the early 2000s, when the whole Sahara as a brand was really growing, and that was one of the anchor brands for the company to really scale up. And after that, it continued growing, and I think one culture that has been there inside the system, which I have tried to take forward as much as possible, is that we're a hands-on set of people, Sudhanshu. We obviously understand that you can't do everything yourself.
Correct.
But you can lead things. And I and my father are both very firm believers of that the captain should lead by example. If the captain is not scoring a century, then how do you really motivate the team to score centuries? I joined in about 2015.
Okay.
I moved from Ogilvy. And because my love has been primarily in FMCG with Nestle, United Biscuits, McVitie's, Coca-Cola, Philips, etc. So I automatically also had a network and a circle, and we started attracting a lot more of food brands, beverage brands, FMCG brands to the roster. Around 2019, my sister also joined the business.
Wow.
And she is a vice president. Her name is Rumpa. She leads a set of brands on her portfolio, and yes, and the company has been growing. Will not drop much numbers here, but it has been a steady growth. We've been clocking approximately on an average between 15 to 17% growth in the last few years.
Okay.
COVID, yes, was a difficult time, but I think we were really, really privileged to work with some great set of brands.
Okay.
Sudhanshu, one X factor about BEI Confluence that I can proudly say and say on camera is that when brands work with us, they work with us for a long period of time.
Correct.
So I can drop in a few names because the brands are no longer brand. It's not a brand agency relationship. It's now as close as a family relationship. We built this brand called Cracks.
Okay.
The kids corn rings, extruded snacking category. Right from scratch, it was a founder business. My father worked with the founder of Cracks for a long period of time. Then I joined in 2015 and his next generation came in. And today they have scaled up to a magnitude that I think we all know. It's one of the largest brands in the extruded snacking category and giving a run for money to all the brands in the category, whether they are Kurkures or whether they are Lays or whatever. So brands tend to work with us for a long period of time, and that is somewhere because they feel that they get that kind of integrity and that kind of hands-on approach, which makes them feel comfortable. And of course, I mean, then specialized skill set of a set of people are there in the creative, digital marketing, account management, strategy, etc., who add obviously to the business in every way possible.
Correct.
So that is one large part of how BEI Confluence, the culture is there. The second thing would be to maybe give you a sense of some of the brands. I mean, you would know by visiting the websites or whatever, but there are a lot of brands. There are brands like Insecticides India Limited, which is one of the largest. It is one of the largest agrochemical brands in the country. It's a 27-year-old relationship.
Wow.
So it's a publicly listed company, and the relationship between the brand and the agency is at a very, very personal level. There are brands like Jindal Steel. There are brands like Total Energies. There are brands like Birla Group, the JK Group, which is brands like Fun Flips, JK Paper.
Okay.
There are brands like Radico Khaitan, which is obviously one of the largest liquor brands in the country. There is Mrs. Bector's, which is again Gurgaon, Kremika biscuits and English oven breads, and so on and so forth. There is the Modi Group with Mederma, which is in pharma and skincare. And yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be I mean, if I leave somebody out and somebody sees this video, they'll be like, why didn't you mention my brand? So I think I'll refrain here.
Okay, cool. What's the culture in the company?
Yeah. There are two sets of people. One set of people who have been in the system for a long time, and another set of people who are possibly the new joinees, etc. The digital department is a dynamic department because you'll see more changes in that department rather than changes in other departments because of the nature of the ecosystem of digital. So first point is that some of the guys who have been in the system for a long period of time, whether they're from account management, creative, or from strategy planning, or from finance, there is a sense of deep trust and loyalty and integrity between all of us. I work very closely with them, and these are also the guys that I have seen, I have kind of grown up with.
Right.
whether I was working there or whether I was attending the parties of the office, even when I was in, let's say, a Publicis or an Ogilvy, I would still be there at a BEI party. I mean, just to have fun and,
Absolutely.
meet
It's your company.
no, I mean, I would be there, and they are guys who have they work very, very closely with me. They work very closely with my father because they possibly know him for a longer period of time. But of course, in the last 10 years or so, my father has taken obviously a backseat because I have come into the picture and I lead the operations. My sister contributes a hell lot to the company, and so does all the other team members in our team. Some of the guys like Shaunak, Subir. They've been in the system for a very long time. A creative director called Deb, he's been there. He's one of the anchors of the company.
Wow.
For close to 12, 15 years, leading design, packaging, art, etc. There is a gentleman called Shahid, who's our creative head, who I used to work with before at Euro RSCG.
Oh,
and
okay.
we were growing up that time. And then through a strange coincidence during COVID, we ended up meeting, and then we joined forces and he came on board. And the culture is defined by a lot of hard work and a lot of sense of coming together as a team.
Right.
And I am a very, very firm believer that a captain is as good as the team.
Absolutely.
Sudhanshu, I mean, you can have a spectacular captain, but you have a terrible team, it doesn't work. And the other way around as well.
Correct.
So, I mean, there is only one incident that I'll quote amongst 1,000 incidents, which I thought was a spectacular time. This was in 2023. In a sheer coincidence, in the month of August to September, and I remember this very categorically because it was my birthday in the end of August, there were 5 films which had to be executed within a period of 15 days.
Oh.
5 television commercials, and all amongst the 5 there were 3 celebrities or 4 celebrities.
Okay.
Ananya Pandey, Ayushmann Khurrana, Kareena Kapoor were the 3 celebrities, and then there were 2 other films. 5 films in 15 days by any stretch of imagination is a mountain to climb.
No, it's way too difficult.
Especially because you have celebrity shoots involved and you have to coordinate on every little thing about what costume, what what wo, logistics, falana, etc. etc. क्रिएटिव का काम तो हो गया था, स्क्रिप्ट्स वगैरह लॉक हो गए थे, मगर वो सिर्फ प्रोडक्शन को सी थ्रू करना. एंड दिस 15 days, I remember the team came together like how. And it's one of the greatest memories that I take in my career, where everyone, irrespective of it's a Saturday or a Sunday or an afternoon or an evening or midnight, was in contact, and we pulled off all the films spectacularly. And it is a great testimony to great teamwork. And I think the intent was the driving force.
Correct.
Everyone wanted to make it happen. And if you want to make it happen really, really, passionately, I'm sure, life finds a way.
Right.
So therefore, we were able to make it happen. And it was a great time. I mean, I have handled 2-3 films ek saath mein in places like Ogilvy and Publicis, etc. also. But then there was a much larger team.
Right.
I would have a Coke team separate. I would have a Philips team separate. I have a Sprite team separate, Kinley team separate, and all that. But here it was a core set of people handling everything together. So while I look at it, I mean, I still kind of feel that, imagine if something would have gone wrong, but nothing did go wrong, and touch wood, it was a great, great job, a great year in itself. So, one of the big memories that I carry.
That is why I always say it's the passion that is driving the marketing industry.
I believe so, because you are from the industry, it comes with all kinds of hazards.
Excellent.
It comes with zero time for your family. It comes with extreme amount of stress and
Right.
pressure.
Right.
It comes with financial challenges. It comes with people challenges.
Correct.
But I think this is a general perspective to the advertising fraternity, that it's almost every time I think about it, it's like an army platoon. They are
Correct.
really tied together very strongly, and they're fighting a
Right.
common enemy.
The frontliners.
So I think that passion does drive us, because otherwise, why would you want to put in so much of backbreaking work
Correct.
if you don't truly love it? So that's my point of view.
Yeah, that's it.
One more factor about the agency is also the process of evolution. We talked about how
This is very important.
how advertising agencies have been evolving or not have been evolving is a testimony to how they progress.
Exactly.
मैं जो अगेन एक लार्ज नेटवर्क एजेंसी के बारे में 15 साल पहले जो जानता था versus today what I know of it is very different, because some of them would have changed course, and unfortunately some would have not changed course,
Right.
because they were so strong in what they did. They didn't find it enough important enough to evolve. We feel and we feel this with all sincerity, that evolution is critical.
Correct.
Now, in a homegrown agency, Sudhanshu, evolution is not very easy,
Yeah.
because you work with a lot of people who've been with you and the relationships are very, very strong. But you have to evolve.
Correct.
And people who evolve will move forward.
Correct.
People who get stuck in a time bubble tend to get left out.
Right.
It can sound very ruthless, but the
This is
hard
the truth.
facts are always hard.
Right. Right.
So therefore, as an agency, we have also tried to evolve as much as possible. And given the brands that we handle now, like in a very simple way, the roster of brands that we handle now versus the roster of brands that we used to handle 10 years back are North Korea and South Korea. They're completely different.
Okay.
Good, bad, ugly is not the point, but the nature of businesses are different. The nature of marketing is different. Therefore, the people who are servicing those businesses also need to have that kind of mentality
Right.
and that understanding and expertise.
Correct.
So evolution is most important because it's a culture that has been built over a long period of time. And since the culture is strong, it's slightly easier to evolve because you are wanting to evolve in the right ways rather than suddenly changing to becoming a very different animal.
Right.
वो नहीं हो पाएगा,
वो नहीं हो पाता.
क्योंकि 26 साल से अगर आप एक बिजनेस में हैं तो आप भी एक ब्रांड है
Exactly.
और आपके भी कुछ फंडामेंटल्स है, आपको लोग किसी तरीके से पहचानते हैं.
Correct.
तो आप सडनली उसको चेंज करके यू कांट सडनली लुक लाइक अ कंप्लीटली यंग यूथफुल सेट ऑफ 5 पीपल कंपनी काइंड ऑफ अ फॉर्मेट. वो
Which is
उसमें आप
not
नहीं जा
possible.
सकते.
Right.
Correct, because the temptation is that
Right.
should we become a pure play digital agency? But we are a brand, a agency who can handle a brand from every spectrum. That is what we truly believe in. चाहे वो digital brand हो या mainline brand हो, brand तो है.
Exactly.
अगर brand है तो फिर we are the people who will make sure that the brand comes alive.
Correct.
Then medium तो जरिया है ना, चाहे वो Instagram के साथ हो या न्यूज़पेपर में हो या जो भी हो.
Correct.
So these are the two things about BEI which I take pride in. And we are still evolving, Sudhanshu. So this evolution journey is not never closed. Now I don't know what we will evolve to later, but there is a plan. It's also important to have a plan.
Always.
Otherwise, what do you want to evolve into if it's unclear? Then where are you going to head?
Exactly.
So thankfully there is a plan.
Right.
And let's see, we are moving towards that. We are taking steps possible and moving in that direction, and hopefully by the grace of God it should evolve into something else in the
Correct,
next
correct,
chapter.
correct.
In the next time when we meet, we might be having a different conversation.
Absolutely, we will be having. And kudos to you, BEI Confluence, and all the best.
Thank you, Sudhanshu.